Until this moment, Citra had never known her mother to be so timid.
Well,
That's good.
hello, travelers. Welcome back
Because I require
to
nothing
the Robe.
special.
It's DD
Then
Kai.
he sat
We're
on
live
the
again,
sofa and waited
reading
patiently for
SCYTHE.
dinner. Was it too much to believe that the
Best
man
book ever.
was here for a meal?
Best book ever.
Wait.
So yeah,
Oh, for a meal and nothing more? After all,
this is
Sis had to eat
like an
somewhere.
episode 2
Customarily,
kind of deal.
restaurants
I don't have
never charged
episodes.
them
I'm just
for
gonna let you
food,
know in
but
the
that didn't
title
mean a
where
home-cooked
we're at,
meal was not
where
more
we're going,
desirable.
and what we're reading. And today we're reading chapters 2
There
to
were
6.
rumors of Sis
That will be
who
done with
required
part
their
1 in the
victims to
series.
prepare
Well,
them
not in the
a
series,
meal
in the
before
book,
being gleaned.
because there's
Is that what was happening here?
like
Whatever
8
his
parts
intentions,
in this one
he
book.
kept them to himself.
It's like 300
They
some
had no
pages. I'm
choice
at
but to
28.
give him whatever he wanted.
And
Will he spare a life here today
Yeah.
if the food is to his taste?
I hope you guys do
Citra
enjoy.
wondered.
Make sure to leave a
No
like,
surprise that
subscribe,
people
and turn on
bent
post
over
notifications to
backwards
get notified
to
every single
please
time I
Sis
upload.
in every way
Be greatly
possible, in
appreciated.
every
If you guys
possible
come
way.
out,
Hope in the shadow of fear is the
I don't know
world's most
what I was
powerful
about to say. I was
motivator.
stuttering, but come
Citra's
over
mother brought
to my
him
TikTok
something to
and my
drink at his request,
Twitch.
and now labored
Go follow
to
me
make
there.
sure tonight's dinner was the
But I do
finest
go
she
live
had
on
ever
YouTube
served. Cooking
every
was not her
day.
specialty.
I try to.
Usually she
So
would
yeah,
return
I try to go
home
live
from
every
work
day.
just in time to throw something quick together for them.
But
Tonight their lives might just rest
let
on
y'all
her
know,
questionable culinary
I stumble on
skills.
words
And their
sometimes.
father,
And remember
would he
this
be home in
alive.
time, or would a gleaning in
This
his
isn't
home
really like
take
edited
place
down,
in his
so
absence?
might stumble on my
As
words
terrified as
sometimes.
Citra was, she did not
Might
want to
reread
leave
sentences.
Sith alone with
And
his own thoughts. So she went into the living
might look
room,
up some
and
words if I don't know what they
Ben, who
mean.
was clearly as
So,
fascinated as he was
that's
fearful, sat with
further
her.
notice. So if you
The man
guys
finally introduced himself
don't like
as
this kind of
the
stuff
Honorable
and get
Sith
bored by it,
Faraday.
because I don't even like
I,
expect people to watch this for real. I'm just doing it
did a
because
report on
I
Faraday for
really,
school once,
really
Ben
enjoy this
said,
book. I
his
love
voice cracking
reading.
only
I've always loved
once.
reading since I was a
"You
little
picked a
kid,
pretty cool
and I haven't done it
scientist
in a
to
really long
name
time.
yourself after."
And
Sith Faraday
I feel
smiled.
like doing it on
"I
a
like to
stream
think I chose an
enforces me
appropriate patron
to
historic, like
do
many
it actually,
scientists,
because
Michael Faraday was
when I'm streaming, I want to do everything and anything.
underappreciated in his
And I
life,
just love streaming.
that our world would
I
not
could be playing
what it
Elden
is
Ring right
without
now,
him.
but I wanted to read. I could be reading. I could
have
read
you in my Sith card
like,
collection. Ben went on.
Solo
I
Dolo,
have almost all the
which I eventually will with some other books.
But you were
But this
younger
series, I
in the
really wanted
picture.
to
The man
really wanted to
seemed
stream it. I don't know
perhaps
why.
60, and although
And
his hair
I just hope
had
people
gone
can
gray, his goatee
enjoy
was
it,
still
maybe.
salt and pepper.
Eventually, the streams are going to be
It
better
was
to where
rare for a
it's
person
not
to
really
let
going to be my
themselves reach
face
such an
and me
age
just flipping
before
through pages.
resetting back
It's more
to a
going to be
youthful
centered
self.
on the book, and you guys
Citra
can read
wondered
along with me.
how old he truly
Set up the
was.
camera. I just need a bigger desk and
Had
stuff.
he been charged
I got
with
a
ending
lot
lives?
of plans.
Do you
A lot of
look your
plans. A lot of
true age?
plans.
Or are you at the far end of time by choice?
Before we do start reading,
Citra asked.
I'm going to spark
Citra.
up. I'm just going to talk
Her
a little
mother
bit.
nearly dropped the
Talk a little
casserole
bit.
tray.
I'm going to talk a little
Citra.
bit.
Her mother nearly dropped
Then we're
the
going to get
casserole she had
straight
just taken
into
out of the oven.
reading.
What a question to ask.
But yeah, the reason why I
like
love this
direct
book so much
questions,
is
she said. It
it
showed
was
honesty of spirit.
one of the
So I
first
will give an
books
honest answer.
I've ever
I
read
admit to having turned the corner 4
fully,
times. My natural
like,
age is somewhere
by
near
myself,
180.
like without it being a
although
project or something that I
I
had
forget
to
the exact number of
do
late
research on.
have chosen this
Because there's another book I read that is a really good book. It's called
fuck is that word?
I think it's called 12 Years a Slave. I'm pretty sure there's a movie about it.
Gotta look up this word.
And I think the main dude's name was Norman. I might be lying. But no, it was just about a guy who got falsely, like, put into slavery. He got dragged away from his home. He was illegally put into slavery, even though... That sounds crazy to fucking say. That sounds insane to say that he illegally got put into slavery. Slavery should have never been a thing. Like, don't think that I think it should have been. But just in the circumstances and time period and, like, how life was going, he illegally got put into
admiration
slavery,
because of great
and was
age,
stuck there for 12 years.
wisdom, character, or
And
historical
eventually
importance.
got back home. I did a book report on it. It was a really long time ago. I think it was like
Okay.
when I was in like 6th, maybe 7th grade. It was 6th grade. It was 6th grade. I remember now. I did it in 6th grade. And I actually really enjoyed that book. Really enjoyed that book. But this book
I don't
series,
even know what this sounds like. Hold on. Give me 5 seconds. I gotta know what this word is.
yes. 12 Years a Slave book, that was more of a nonfiction. I'm pretty sure it was based on true events.
Venerable.
And it was very interesting.
Venerable.
Venerable.
You could learn something from it. And this book, Scythe series, the Sith series,
Okay.
the Sith, the Scythe.
Of late, I've chosen
Wait,
this
Sith?
venerable
Scythe.
appearance.
Yeah, it's Scythe.
because I
The Scythe
find
series
that
is
those like me
just
take more comfort
wonderful.
from it.
It's honest. It's
They
fiction.
laugh. They think me
And
wise.
When I got into it, I
Is
initially
that why you're
thought
here,
it was going to be bad.
ungoated?
I thought
Glean
it was
one of
going to
us?
be lame.
Sith fare they offer
I didn't really
readable smile.
know how good
Here
it was
for
going to be
dinner.
because
Citra's father arrived.
This
just
when I
as
was in,
dinner
like,
was about to
high
be
school.
served. Her mom had
Um,
apparently informed him of
I was
the
just like a
situation,
kid that
so he was much more emotionally
I still do.
prepared than
I
the
think
rest
I
of
like
them
know it all.
had been. As soon
And
as he entered, he went straight
Not even know it
over
all.
to Sith Fair
It was
to
more of like a
shake his
thing
hand
like
and
with.
pretended to be far
I just
more
thought it would be better to
jovial
just
and
watch
inviting
movies
than
or
he
something
truly
instead
must
of reading.
have
But
been.
I soon came to realize to regret that statement because I love reading. Honestly, reading is great. Clears the mind. Lets me imagine things at
The
a
meal was
different way, in a different way
mostly
than I
silence,
ever could. Because
punctuated by the occasional comment by the Sith. You have a
it was
lovely
giving me
home.
something to think about.
What flavorful lemonade.
I've very
This may be the best baked ziti
Like,
in all of Mid-America.
crazy imagination. Like
Even though everything
like,
he
I
said
can,
was
imagine.
complimentary. His voice registered like a
Let's say
seismic shock
like a pirate
alarm.
ship. I can imagine being on a pirate ship right now at the middle of, in the middle of the sea,
Registered like a seismic
cannons
shock
firing at
alarm
other ships.
Everyone's spine.
I could see myself,
Oh,
Feel the
registered
wind.
like a seismic shock,
see the sails moving.
like a seismic shock
Like-
down everyone's spine.
I don't know. I have a
I
very
haven't
good
seen
imagination.
you in the neighborhood. Citrus father
And
finally said.
reading
I don't suppose
to me
you
it was
would
boring
have
because there wasn't pictures. There's
answered.
no pictures. But then I came soon to realize when I was reading this, the pictures would just come to me as I'm reading. I'm just like, ooh, this is exciting. It's literally like inventing your own movie
I don't
and
suppose
what
you
the
would
characters
have,
look
he
like
answered. I
from the
am
way they're
not
explained in the
the
story.
public figure
Like
that
if you don't
some
get
other Siths
perfect
chose
like
to be.
details, because they're not gonna explain
Some Siths
someone
prefer to the
down to the
spotlight,
fucking
but to
T,
truly do
but
the
you
job
can get a
right,
real
it
good
requires a
imagination of
level
what things would look like
animosity
and how it would look,
and
and you can like really paint a scene of the world, and it just makes the
anonymity.
the
A
book
level of
more immersive.
anonymity.
It gives you that it gives you a really good immersion feeling that I always look for in anything. I want to immerse myself into everything. I like to be that main character, motherfucker. So yeah. But we're gonna read.
Anonymity.
You're gonna see what I mean. I would really love for one of these times, if I'm reading, because I do need a better like
Truly do
system
the
and stuff.
job
Because right now I am live
requires a
streaming it.
level of anonymity.
Eventually I'll make videos on it, and I eventually want to turn those videos into like, I think I talked about this in the last one, into little animations of like what the story is being told. Like even if they're dumb animations, they're not even like very detailed or anything. But I do want to, because I want to do that like very like a very realistic animation, like that like gives you like intense action, blah blah blah, and then like one of those one of those animations that's just like dumb, like
Okay.
it's dumb drawings,
Right.
and it
Citra bristled
I don't know. You could
the
like
very idea.
split it up into
There's
scenes.
a right way to glean.
Each part of the book
Well,
is a different
he
animation,
answered, there are
or
certainly
just
wrong
everything I'm
ways.
saying is in
He
different
said nothing more
animation.
about it. You just
That would
ate
take
his
a
zeal.
long ass
As
time
the
though.
meal
So
neared
long.
its close, he said, "Tell
That
me
would
about
take.
yourselves." It wasn't.
But
It wasn't a question or a request. It could only be read as a demand.
who knows?
Citra wasn't sure whether this was part of his
I definitely would
little
want to do it.
dance of death, or if he was
Or do a
just
story time
genuinely
and animate the
interested.
story time.
He knew their names before he entered the
That'd be fun.
apartment. So
That'd
he
be fun.
probably already knew all the things they could tell him.
Oh
and
my
why
goodness.
ask?
But
I work in historical
After this stream,
research.
should I
her father
stream?
said. I'm a food synthesis engineer, Hermit and said her
Elden Ring?
mother. The Sith raised his eyebrows, and yet you cook
I honestly think I should,
this from
because I haven't played it in a minute, like 8 days.
She put down her fork. All from synthesized ingredients. Yes, but if we can
'Cause I need to finish that
synthesize
game.
anything, he offered, why do we still need food synthesis?
And I'm fucking
engineers?
reading,
Why do you still need food synthesis?
But I need to read.
engineers?
because this isn't
Citra
my
could
book.
Practically
I
see
borrowed
the blood
this
drain
from
her
a
mouth
library, and I have to
or
return
from
it
her
in
mother's
like
face. It was her
7
father
days.
who rose to defend his wife's existence.
which is great.
There's always room for improvement. Yeah, and Dad's work is important too.
Which is
Ben
great.
said. What historical research? What? Historical research?
So I need to finish
Sith
this book.
waved his fork, dismissing the notion. The
the
past
next
never changes, and
week,
from what I can see,
which I can
neither
do.
does the future. While her parents
If
and
I really
mother
wanted
were
to, I could probably finish this book.
perplexed and troubled by his comments, Citra understood the point.
Like if I was doing
He
it by
was
myself,
making the growth of civilization
I could probably finish this book.
he was
And
making.
so I'd get
Citra
bored,
understood
probably
the
like 2
point he
days,
was making.
2 or 3
The
days.
growth of civilization
really wanted
was
to.
complete. Everyone knew it. When it came to the human race, there was
No,
no
it's probably
more
gonna take me
left to
longer
learn.
because I'm streaming it.
Nothing about our own existence.
Break it up into
to
episodes,
decipher,
and I'm gonna take
which
a
meant
break
that no
off of
one
it that day.
person
Because when I get done
was
with this
more
part 1,
important than any other.
break.
In fact,
Part 2 in the
in the
next
grand
stream,
scheme of
break.
things,
Part 3,
everyone
break.
was equally useless. That's what he
But
was
I at least
saying,
want to try to
and
read
it
from today
infuriated Citra,
into the next,
because
like
on
every
a
day.
certain level she knew
Every day.
he was
Stream
right.
me reading every day,
Citra was
and then
well
stream
known
me playing
for
Elden
her
Ring, and
temper.
then stream
It
whatever.
often arrived for a reason, and left only after the damage was done. Tonight would be no exception. Why are you doing this? If you're here to glean one of us, just get it over with and stop torturing us. Her mother gasped,
Holy
and her
crap.
father pushed back his chair, as if ready to get up and physically remove her from the room. Citra, what are you
I don't know
doing?
what to say.
Now her mother's voice
Because I'm
was
fucking
quivering.
stupid.
Show respect. No,
I'm
he's here. He's
stupid.
going to do it. So let him do it. It's not like he hasn't
a
decided.
little bit.
I've heard that
Little
Siths
bit.
always make up their minds before they enter a home. Isn't that right? The
That's
Sith was
just how it is.
unperturbed.
And my chair is
Unperturbed.
sinking.
I need to look up what this word is.
There we go. So this a few more times. And then start the
Unperturbed.
reading. I could.
Unperturbed.
Unperturbed.
I was gonna say I could watch like a
Unperturbed is
YouTube
an
video right
adjective
now
that means to be
before I
calm,
start reading,
composed,
react to it,
and free from worry, agitation,
For the
and
reading
nervous
live.
tension,
and then
especially in a stressful or unexpected situation.
start reading.
Someone who is unperturbed remains completely unfazed and undisturbed by external pressures or sudden changes. I need to learn how to be more unperturbed.
I spent 15 minutes sitting here Doing nothing. Is that okay? It shouldn't be.
The Sith was
And it's not
unperturbed by her outburst.
for a streamer. Shouldn't be sitting here for 15 minutes doing nothing.
Some do, some don't. He said
honestly,
gently.
I don't give a fuck.
We each have our own way
I don't
of
give a fuck.
doing things.
Thank
By
you.
now, Ben was crying. Dad put his arm around him, but the boy
We're here.
was inconsolable.
We're going.
Yes, sis must glean, Faraday said. But we also must eat and sleep and have simple conversation. Citra grabbed his empty plate away from him. Well, the meal's done, so you can leave. Then her father approached him. He fell to his knees. Her father was actually on his knees to this man. Please, Your Honor, forgive her. I take full responsibility for her behavior. The Sith stood. An apology isn't necessary. It's refreshing to be challenged. You have no idea how tedious it gets. The pandering, the obsequious flattery. Oh my gosh, am I gonna have to look at this word too? Dude, my hair is fucked right now. I'm not gonna look up that word. What word was it? Daring? The pandering, the obsequious flattery, the endless parade.
Let's get into reading this book.
Sycophants. A slap in the face is bracing. It reminds me that I'm human. Then he went to the kitchen and grabbed the largest, sharpest knife he could find.
I wish I had my
He
glasses,
swished it back and forth.
but I do not.
A feel for how it cut through the air. Ben's wails grew, and his father's grip tightened on him. The Sith approached their mother. Citra was ready
2042.
to hurl
It's a
herself
year
in front
that
of her
every
to block
school
the blade,
child
but
knows.
instead of swinging the
It
knife,
was the
man
year
held out
where
his other hand. Kiss my ring.
computational
No one
power,
was expecting
computational power
least of all
became
Citra.
infinite, or so
Citra's
close
mother-
to infinite that it could no longer be measured. It was
Citra's
the
mother
year we
stared
knew
at him, shaking
everything.
her head, not willing to
The
believe.
cloud
You're
evolved
granting me
into
immunity
the thunderhead.
for your kindness.
And
the
now
meal you
all there is
served,
to
I
know
grant you
about
1 year
everything resides in the
immunity
near
for-
infinite memory
I grant you
of the
1 year
thunderhead for
immunity
anyone
from
who wants to access it. But like
Crazy.
so many things, once we had possession of infinite knowledge, it suddenly seemed
the fuck
less
up,
important, less
Get the
urgent.
fuck out then.
Yes, we know everything, but I often wonder
No
if
Sith
anyone
may touch
bothers to
you,
look at all
But she
that knowledge.
hesitated.
There are
Grant it to my
academics, of
children
course,
instead.
who study what
Still,
we
the
already
Sith
know,
held out
but
his
to
ring
what
to
end?
her.
The
It
very
was a
idea
diamond,
of schooling
the
used to
size
be
of
about
his
learning
knuckle,
so that we
with a
could
dark
improve our
core.
lives in the
It
world.
was, I don't
But
know
a
why I
perfect
had an
world
accent.
needs no
It was the
improvement.
same
Like
ring
most
all
everything
Siths
else we
wore.
do,
I
education
am
from
offering
grade
it
school
to
through
you,
the
not
highest of
them,
universities
but
is just a way to
Jenny,
keep us busy.
just do
2042
it, insisted
is the
their
year
father.
we conquered death. And
And so she
also
did.
the
She
year
knelt,
we
kissed
stopped
the ring, her
counting.
DNA was red
Sure,
and
we still
was
numbered years for a
transmitted to the
few more
systems
decades,
immunity
but at the
database.
moment of immortality,
In an
passing
instant,
time
she-
ceased to matter.
The world
I don't know
knew that
exactly
Jenny
when things switched
Terranova
over to the
was safe
Chinese
from
calendar
bleeding
year of the
for the
dog,
next
year
12
of the
months.
goat,
The Sith looked
year of the
to
goat,
his ring,
the dragon,
which
and
now
so on.
glowed
And I
faintly
can't
red,
exactly say when animal
indicating that the
activists around the
person
world
before
began
him had
calling for
immunity
equal billing
from
for their
gleaning.
own favorite
Grinned,
species,
satisfied, and
adding in
finally
year of
told
the otter,
them the truth.
and the
I'm
white,
here to
and the
glean
whale,
behavior.
and the
Bridget
penguin.
Chadwell.
I couldn't
Sith
tell
Faraday
you
informed them, but she was
when they
not yet
stopped
home, and I was hungry. He
repeating.
gently touched Ben on the
And when
head,
it was
and as if delivering
decreed
some sort of benediction,
that every
it seemed to
year
calm him.
henceforth would be
Then the
named
Sith
after a different
moved
species.
to the door, the
All I
knife
know
still in his hand,
sure
leaving no questions as to the method of
is
the
that
neighbor's gleaning.
this is the
But
year
before
of
he
the
left, he
Ocelot.
turned to Citra.
As
see
for the
through the
things I
facades of the world.
don't know,
Citra
I'm
Terra
sure
Nova.
they're all
You'd make a
up
good
there
scythe.
in the thunderhead
Citra
for
recoiled.
anyone
I'd never
with
want to be one.
motivation to look.
That, he said,
From the
is
Gleaning
first
Journal of
requirement.
H.S. Curry.
Then he left to kill their neighbor. They didn't
So-
speak of it that night. No one spoke of gleanings, as if speaking about it might bring it upon them.
That's kind of crazy. Death does not exist in this world.
There were
obviously.
no sounds from
think we
next
learned that
door,
in
no
the last
screams, no pleading,
episode.
no pleading wails, or perhaps the Terra
And
Nova's TV was turned up too loud to
Furthermore,
hear. That was the first thing Citra's father did
the
once
result
the Sith
of
left.
the world has
Turned on the TV and blasted
set
to
itself
drown
in a
out the
standstill.
gleaming on the other side of the wall.
basically like
But it
time
was
has stopped.
unnecessary,
There's no more need
because however
for
the Sith
improvement,
accomplished his task, it was done
which is
quietly.
kinda
Citra found herself
crazy because I
straining
think
to
about
hear
that,
something,
and when
anything.
you
Both
really
she
think
and
about
Ben
it, this could
discovered
be
in
a real
themselves
possibility.
morbid
Like we could have the
that made
Thunderhead,
them both
and I
secretly
used to think that
ashamed.
all the time when I was a
An
kid.
hour
Whenever I
later,
first read this
Honorable
book,
Sith Faraday returned.
I
It was
always was
Citra
like,
who opened
"Yo,
the door.
this
His ivory robe
is
held
probably
not a
the
single
realest
splatter of
outcome
blood.
of
Perhaps
like
he had a spare one.
how the world
Perhaps
could
he had
go."
used
I
the neighbor's
honestly, it would be
washing
dope
machine
to have
after her gleaning.
I say
The
zombies,
knife
even
was
though
clean
people,
too,
oh yeah,
and he handed
eaten,
it
people
to
die,
Citra.
but
We don't want it.
they would
Citra
die in
told
any
him, feeling
kind of
pretty
circumstance.
sure she
Like
could speak for her
people, it's
parents
a
in the
natural
matter.
cause, it's a
We'll
natural
never
thing.
use it again. But you must
It has to
use
happen
it.
for the world
He
to go.
insisted,
Truly,
so that it might remind you. Remind us
and
of what? That a Sith is merely the instrument of
zombies.
death, but it is your
It'd be pretty
hand that
badass if
swings
the
them.
world had
You
to
and your
end.
parents and everyone else in this world are the wielders
I'm down
of
for a
Sith.
zombie apocalypse.
Then
but
he gently put the knife in her hand.
It's obviously not up to me.
We are all accomplices. You must share the responsibility.
If it was,
That may
I'd
have
doom
been
everybody.
true,
This
but
is the
after
perfect
he was
reality.
gone, Citra
Is
still
they would
dropped the
choose
knife
people
into the
to
trash.
kill
It is the most
the
difficult thing a person can be asked to do. And knowing
mass
that it
population.
is the greater good, it doesn't make
They have
it any
these
easier.
individuals.
People used
They're
to die
basically death.
naturally.
Because everyone
Old
is
age
immortal,
used to be a
so
terminal affliction, not a temporary state.
one becomes
There were
death
invisible killers.
and kills.
Please,
And when someone is
first
gleaned,
grade
that they
reading
call
level,
it,
suck my dick,
they-
dumbass. Like, what the fuck?
can't resurrect and they
What
won't
was I?
be able to
Temporary
come back.
state. Old age used to be a terminal affliction, not a
And
temporary
that's actually a real
state.
possibility if
Oh,
our AI
shit.
gets really advanced and can conquer death, and we can figure out how to become immortal in a sense. Reverse aging, like, bro, someone's working on it. Could turn out crazy one day, especially with AI's capabilities of revolutionizing things, bro.
There were invisible
The
killers
world is
called
going to be a different
diseases
place
that broke
in the next 20
body
years.
down. Aging couldn't be
That's
reversed,
a fact.
and there were accidents
But
from which
that
there
was
was
the end
no
of-
return. Planes fell from the sky. Cars actually crashed. There was pain, misery, despair. It's hard for most of
That was
us
the end
to
of chapter
imagine
2.
a world
This
so
stream is
unsafe,
actually chapter
with dangers
3
lurking in every
to 6.
unseen, unplanned
So
corner.
I kind of fucked up on
All
the
of
title,
that
but
is
that's alright.
behind us now, and yet a simple truth remains: people
The force
have to
of
die.
destiny.
It's not as if we can go somewhere
The
else.
invitation
The
came to
disasters
Citra
on the
in
moon
early
and
January.
Mars colonies prove that.
It
We have one
arrived
very limited
by
world,
post,
and although death has been defeated
which was the
as
first.
completely as polio, people still must die. The ending of human life used to be in the hands of nature, but we stole it. Now we have a monopoly on
First
death.
indication.
We are
I'm an idiot. I
soldiers.
had to sound that out so
Weird.
deeply. I was
I
like,
understand
the
why
fuck is
there
this
are
word?
Siths and
indic,
how important and how
indication,
necessary the work is. But I
indication.
often wonder why I had to be chosen.
that it was out
and
of
if
the
there is some
ordinary.
external world
There were
after
only
this
3
one.
types of
What fate
communications that
awaits
arrived by
lives.
post:
The
packages,
Gleaning Journal of H.S. Curry.
official business, or letters from the eccentric,
Chapter 2. Point
The only type of people
3%.
who still wrote letters. This appeared to be
Oh my
of the
goodness.
third variety.
Kinder,
We'll open it,
get off my
Ben
dick.
said, more excited by the envelope
Tiger
than
Zalazar.
Citra was, It had been
Tiger
handwritten,
Salazar
making it even
had hurled
odder.
himself out a 39
True,
story
handwriting was still
window,
offered as an
leaving a
elective, but
terrible
aside
mess on
from
the marble plaza
herself,
below. His
she knew
own
few people who had
parents were
taken it.
so
She
annoyed by it,
tore the
they
envelope
didn't
open
come to see
and
him.
pulled out a card that
Rowan
was
did.
the same
Rowan
eggshell color as the
Danish.
envelope. Then
Danish.
read to herself
Danish.
before reading it
Rowan
aloud.
Danish was just
The
that kind of
pleasure
friend.
of your
He sat by
company
Tiger's
is requested at the
bedside
Grand
in the
Civic
Revival Center,
Opera,
waiting for him to
January
awake
9th,
from speed
7
healing.
p.m.
Rowan didn't mind.
There was no
The
signature,
Revival
no
Center was
return
quiet,
address.
peaceful.
There
It was a nice break
however,
from the
a
turmoil
single ticket in the
of his
envelope.
house,
The opera,
which lately
said Ben.
had been
Ew.
filled with more
Citra couldn't agree
relatives
more.
than any human being should
Could it be
expected
some
to
sort of
endure.
school event?
Cousins,
Their mother
second
asked.
cousins, siblings,
Citra shook her
half-siblings,
head. If
and
it
now his
was, it
grandmother
would say
had
so.
returned home after
She
turning
took the
corner
invitation and
for a
envelope
third time
from Citra
with
to
a new
study them
husband
herself.
and a baby on the
Well,
way.
whatever it is,
You're
it
going
sounds
to have a
interesting.
new aunt, Rowan, she had announced. Isn't
Also,
it wonderful?
I forgot to say,
The whole thing pissed Rowan's mother off.
this is chapter
Because
3, The
This
Force
time,
of Destiny.
Grandma had reset all the way down to 25, making her 10 years younger
Alright.
than her daughter.
It's probably
Now,
some
Mom
loser's
felt
way
pressured to
of
turn the
asking me
corner
on a
herself,
date because
if
he's
only to
too
keep
afraid
up
to
with
ask me to my
Grandma,
face.
Grandpa. Wait,
Do you think you'll go?
if
Her
only
mother
to
asked.
keep up with Grandma. Grandpa
Mom,
was much more
a
sensible.
boy who invites
He
me
was
to the
often
opera is either joking
Euroscandia,
or delusional.
Euroscandia, charming
Or he's
the
trying to
ladies
impress
and
you.
maintaining his
Citra
age
grunted
at a
and left the
respectable
room,
38.
annoyed by her
Rowan,
own
at 16,
curiosity.
had resolved he would
I'm not going,
experience gray hair
she
before
called out
he
from her
turned
room,
his first corner.
knowing full well that
Even
she
then,
would.
He wouldn't reset so far down
Like,
as to
who's
be
gonna...
as to be embarrassed.
I'm the type of person that passes
Some
up,
people
but
reset
who's
to
gonna pass
21,
up tickets to that?
which was the youngest genetic therapy
Opera.
could take a person.
Come on.
Rumor was, though,
The Grand Civic
that they
Opera
were working
was one
on
of the
ways to
several
reset right
places
down
where
into their
anyone
teens,
who was
which Rowan
anyone
found ridiculous.
went
Why would
to.
anyone in their right
went to
mind
be seen.
want to be a
My
teenager
bad.
more
At
than
any
once?
given
When he
performance,
glanced back
only
at his
half the
friend,
patrons were
Tiger's
there
eyes
for
were
the
open and
actual
studying
opera.
Rowan.
The
"Hey,"
rest were there to
Rowan
participate
said.
in the great
"How long?" Tiger
melodrama
asked.
of
4
social
days.
climbing
Tiger
and
pumped his
career
fist in
advancement.
triumph.
Even
Yes,
Citra,
a
who moved
new
in none
record.
of those
He looked at
circles,
his
knew the
hands
drill.
as if
She wore the dress she
taking
had bought
stock
from the
of the
previous
damage
year's homecoming
was.
dance.
Of course,
When she
no
was
damage
sure
left.
that Hunter
One did not wake up
Morrison
from
would invite her,
speed
instead,
healing
Hunter
until
had invited Zachary Swan,
there was nothing left
which
to heal.
apparently everyone
Do
but
you think
Citra
it was
knew
jumping from
would
such a high
happen.
floor that did
They
it?
were still a
was
couple,
it the
and Citra until today
Marble
hadn't had
Plaza?
any issues for the dress.
Probably the marble.
When she
Rowan
put it
said.
on,
Once
she
you
was
reach
far more
terminal
pleased
velocity,
with
it
it than
doesn't
she
matter
thought
how high
she'd be.
you are.
Teenage
when you
girls
jump.
change in a year,
Did I
but now
crack
the
it?
dress, which
Did
was
they have
more
to
about
replace the
wishful
marble?
thinking
I don't
last
know,
year,
Tiger.
actually
Jeez,
fit her
enough
perfectly.
already.
In her
Tiger
mind, she had
leaned
narrowed
back
down
into
the
his pillow,
possibilities of her
immensely
secret
pleased with
admirer.
himself.
It could be
Best
one of 5,
plat
only
ever.
2 of whom she would enjoy spending an
Rowan
evening
found
alone with.
he
The
had
other
patience
3
to wait
she would endure for the
friend
sake of
to wake up,
novelty.
but no patience for him now that he was conscious.
Novelty?
Why do you even
Novelty.
do it?
The sake of
I mean,
novelty,
it's
I
such
think.
a waste of time. Tiger shrugged.
Here's a
like
word
the
I
way
gotta
it
look
feels
up.
on the way down.
Because I'm dumb.
Nice. Besides, I gotta remind my parents that the lettuce is there. That made Rowan chuckle. It was Rowan who had coined the term lettuce kid to describe them. Both of them were born sandwiched somewhere in the middle of large families and were far from being their parents' favorites. I got a couple of brothers that are the...
There's no fucking way that has been playing in the background this entire time. Hold up. Hold up.
I don't
And
suppose
what
you
the
would
characters
have,
look
he
like
answered.
from
I
the
am
way they're
not
explained in the story.
public figure
Like,
that
if you don't
some
get
others- What? Historical research.
So I need to finish this book.
Waved his fork, dismissing the note. It's refreshing to be challenged. Then he went to the kitchen and grabbed the largest, sharpest knife he could find.
I wish I had my
He
glasses,
swished it back and forth.
but I do not. Yes, we know everything, but I often wonder
No
if
Sith
anyone
may touch
bothers
you,
to look at all
but she
that knowledge.
hesitated.
There are
Granted to my
academics, of
children
course,
instead.
who study what
Still,
we
the
already
Sith
know,
held out
but
his
to what
ring to
end?
her.
The very
It was a
idea of
diamond.
schooling
The
used to
size
be
of
about
his
learning
knuckle,
so that we
with a
could
dark
improve our
hole.
lives in the
It
world.
Fucking freak out, bro.
I don't
But
know
a
why I had
perfect
an
world
accent.
needs no
It was the
improvement.
same
Like
room
most
all
everything
Siths
else we
wore.
do, education from
offering
grade
it
school
to
through
you,
the
not
highest of
them,
universities is just a way to
Jenny,
keep us busy.
Just do
2042
it, insisted
is the
their
year
father.
we conquered death. And
And so
also
I just rolled on
the
myself.
year we
Kissed
stopped
the ring, the
counting.
DNA was red,
Sure, we still
was
numbered years
transmitted
for a
to the
few more
systems
decades,
in Unity
but at the
database.
moment of immortality,
And
I'm gonna freak the fuck out.
passing time ceased to
instantly,
matter.
the world
I don't know
knew that
exactly
Jenny
when things switched
Terranova
over to the
was safe
Chinese
from
calendar
bleeding
year of the
for
dog,
the next 12
year of the
months.
goat,
The Sith looked
year of the
to
goat,
his ring,
the dragon,
which
and
now
so on.
glowed
And I
faintly
can't
red,
exactly say when animal
indicating that the
activists around the
person
world
before
began
him had
calling for
immunity
equal billing
from
for their
bleeding.
own favorite
Grim,
species,
satisfied,
adding in
That's the previous episode in the background. That's alright.
Novelty.
Novelty, that's the word. Novelty is the quality of being new, original, or unusual. Okay. For the sake of novelty. I cannot believe that shit. Hold up, give me 5 seconds. Hello, Sankar. Sankar, I might steal your name for a character in a story. Sankar the brave. Sankar the courageous. Sankar the scared. But Sankar felt all emotions. And Sankar, I don't know. I lost my rhythm. I lost my story idea. Just making it up in my head. That'd be great. I don't know. I just thought it was that was a funny name. It'd actually be a dope character name though. Sankar. Sankar the warrior. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Alright. Where was I at? Laugh my ass off. But no. Okay. You saw the title though. You probably saw the thumbnail. I didn't change the thumbnail. Are you here? It's a here reading. Did I change the thumbnail? I never did. I never did. I'm gonna do that right now. Seen it? What do you mean? I've seen it. The book? Have you read it? Oh, okay. The title. Well, be prepared for a boring reading session. I could turn on background music, but no, I'm not doing all that shit. I'm not gonna worry about if it's copyrighted or not. It doesn't even matter, but let's Start from back here. But do you like to read though? But let's start right here though. It could be one of 5, only 2 of whom she would enjoy spending an evening alone with. The other 3 she would endure for the sake of novelty. There was after all some fun to be had spending an evening pretending to be pretentious. I feel like that's a word for fancy, maybe.
Pretentious.
Pretentious. Uh, pre-
Pretentious.
Pretentious is an adjective used to describe someone or something that claims or acts as if they are more important, cultured, intelligent, or special than they actually are. Okay. Nice word. Pretentious. She's preppy. She wants to act preppy. Her father insisted on dropping her off. Call when you're ready to be picked up. I'll take a public car home. Call anyway, he said. He told her she looked beautiful for the 10th time. Then she got out and he drove off to make room for the limousines and Bentleys in the drop-off queue. She took a deep breath and went up the marble steps, feeling as awkward and out of place as Cinderella at the ball. Upon entering, she was not directed toward either the orchestra or the central staircase leading to the balcony. Instead, the usher looked at the ticket, looked at her, then looked at the ticket again before calling over a second usher to personally escort her. "What's all this about?" she asked. Her first thought was that it was a forged ticket, and she was being escorted to the exit. Perhaps it had been a joke after all, and she was already running a list of suspects through her mind. But then the second usher said, "A personal escort is customary for a box seat, miss." Box seats, Citra recalled, were the ultimate in exclusivity. Exclusivity. They were usually reserved for people too elite to sit among the masses. Normal people couldn't afford them, and even if they could, they weren't allowed access. As she followed the usher up the narrow stairs to the left boxes, Citra began to get scared. She knew no one with that kind of money. What if this invitation came to her by mistake, or if there actually was some sort of big, important person waiting for Citra? What on earth were his or her intentions? Here we are. Here we are. The usher pulled back the curtain of the box to reveal a boy, her age, already sitting there. He had dark hair and light freckled skin. He stood up when he saw her, and Citra could see that his suit revealed a little too much of his socks. "Hi. Hello." And the usher left them alone. "I left you the seat closer to the stage," he said. "Thanks." She sat down, trying to figure out who this was and why he had invited her here. He didn't appear familiar. Should she know him? She didn't want to let on that she didn't recognize him. And people left, and that's okay. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "Thank you, for what?" He held up an invitation that looked exactly like hers. "I'm not much into opera, but hey, it's better than doing nothing at home. So, should I, know you?" Citra laughed out loud. She didn't have a mysterious admirer. It appeared they both had a mysterious matchmaker, which set Citra working on another mental list, at the top of which were her own parents. Perhaps this was the son of one of their friends, but this kind of subterfuge was pretty obtuse even for them. What's so funny? The boy asked, and she showed him her identical invitation. It didn't make him laugh. Instead, he seemed a bit troubled, but didn't share why. He introduced himself as Rowan, and they shook hands just as the lights dimmed. The curtain went up, and the music exploded to lush and loud, too lush and loud for them to be able to hold a conversation. The opera was Verdi's La Forza del Destino, the force of destiny. But it clearly wasn't destiny that had hurled these two together. It was a very deliberate hand. The music was rich and pretty until it became too much for Citra's ears, and the story, while easy to follow even without a knowledge of Italian, had little resonance for either of them. It was, after all, a work from the age of morality, war, vengeance, murder. All the themes on which the tale was strung were so removed from modern reality, few could relate. Catharsis could only gather around the theme of love, which, considering that they were strangers trapped in an opera box, was far more uncomfortable than cathartic. Cathartic. So who do you think invited us? Citra asked as soon as the lights came up for the first act intermission. Rowan had no more clue than she did, so they shared whatever they could that might help them generate a theory. Aside from them both being 16, they had very little in common. She was from the city, he the suburbs. She had a small family, his was large, and their parents' professions couldn't have been further apart. What's your genetic index? He asked. A rather personal question, but perhaps it could have some relevance. 22, 37, 12, 14, 15. He smiled. 37% African descent. Good for you. That's pretty high. Thanks. He told her that his was 33, 13, 12, 22, 20. She thought to ask him if he knew the subindex of his other component. Subindex of his other component. Because 20% was pretty high. But if he didn't know, the question would embarrass him. We both have 12% Pan-Asian ancestry, he pointed out. Could that have something to do with it? But he was gasping at straws. It was merely coincidence. Then, toward the end of intermission, the answer stepped into the box behind them. Good to see you. You're getting acquainted. Although it had been a few months since their encounter, Citra recognized him immediately. Honorable SCYTHE was not a figure you soon forgot. You, Rowan, said with such severity. It was clear that he had a history with the Sith as well. I would have arrived sooner, but I had other business. He didn't elaborate, for which Citra was glad. Still, his presence here could not be a good thing. You invited us here to glean us. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact, because Citra was convinced it was true. Until Rowan said, I don't think that's what this is about. SCYTHE did not make any move to end their lives. Instead, he grabbed an empty chair and sat beside them. I was given this box by the theater director. People always think making offerings to Siths will prevent them from being gleaned. I had no intention of gleaning her, but now she thinks her gifts played a part. People believe what they want to believe, Rowan said, with a sort of authority that told Citra he knew the truth of it. Faraday gestured toward the stage. Tonight we witness the spectacle of human folly and tragedy, he said. Tomorrow we shall live it. Okay. Have you read The Hobbit? You left, though. That's okay. Goodbye. And for those who come in here afterwards, The Hobbits, I have not read The Hobbits. That will be a series that I read, though. I really want to. 100%. So that will be enjoyable. And yes. Yes. I will eventually, but no, I have not read it. Okay. But the curtain went up on the second act before he could explain his meaning. For 2 months, Rowan had been the school pariah, an outcast of the highest order. Although that sort of thing usually ran its course and diminished over time, it was not the case when it came to the gleaning of Cole Whitlock. Every football game rubbed a healthy dose of salt in the communal wound, and since all of those games were lost, it doubled the pain. Rowan was never particularly popular, nor was he ever the target of derision before. But now he was cornered and beaten on a regular basis. He was shunned, and even his friends actively avoided him. Tiger was no exception. Guilt by association, man, Tiger had said, I feel your pain, but I don't want to live it. It's an unfortunate situation, the principal told Rowan when he turned up in the nurse's office waiting out during lunch for some newly inflicted bruises to heal. You may want to consider switching schools. Then one day, Rowan gave him in to the pressure. He stood on a table in the cafeteria and told everyone the lies they wanted to hear. That Sith was my uncle, he proclaimed. I told him to glean Cole Whitlock. Of course, they believed every word of it. Kids began to boo and throw food at him until he said, I want you all to know that my uncle's coming back, and he asked me to choose who gets gleaned next. Suddenly, the food stopped flying, the glares ceased, and the beatings miraculously stopped. What filled the void was well a void. Not a single eye would meet his anymore. Not even his teachers would look at him. A few actually started giving him A's when he was doing B and C work. He began to feel like a ghost in his own life, existing in a forced blind spot of the world. At home, things were normal. His stepfather stayed entirely out of his business, and his mother was preoccupied with too many other things to give much attention to his troubles. They knew what had happened at school and what was happening now, but they dismissed it in that self-serving way parents often had of pretending anything they can't solve is not really a problem. I want to transfer to a different high school, he told his mother, finally taking his principal's advice, and her response was achingly neutral. If you think that's best. He was half convinced if he told her he was dropping out of society and joining a tone call, she'd say, if you think that's the best. So when the opera invitation arrived, he hadn't cared who sent it. Whatever it meant, it was salvation, at least for an evening. The girl he met in the box seat was nice enough, pretty, confident, the kind of girl who probably already had a boyfriend, although she never mentioned one. Then the Sith showed up, and Rowan's world shifted back into a dark place. This was the man responsible for his misery. If he could have gotten away with it, Rowan would have pushed him over the railing, but attacks against Siths were not tolerated. The punishment was the gleaning of the offender's entire family. It was a consequence that ensured the safety of the revered bringers of death. At the close of the opera, Sith Faraday gave them a card and very clear instructions. You will meet me at this address tomorrow morning, precisely at 9. What should we tell our parents about tonight? Citra asked. Apparently she had parents who might care. Tell them whatever you like. It doesn't matter as long as you're there tomorrow morning. The address turned out to be the Museum of World Art, the finest museum in the city.
It didn't open until 10, but the moment the security guard saw a Sith coming up the steps of the main entrance, he unlocked the doors and let the three of them in without even having to be asked. More perks of the position, Sith Faraday told them. They strolled through galleries of the old masters in silence, punctuated only by the sound of their footfalls, and the Sith's occasional commentaries. See how El Greco uses contrast to evoke emotional yearning. Look at the fluidity of motion in this Raphael, how it brings intensity to the visual story he tells. Ah, Surat, prophetic pointillism, a century before the pixel. Rowan was the first to ask the necessary question. What does any of this have to do with us? Sith Faraday sighed in mild irritation, although he probably anticipated the question. I am supplying you with lessons you won't receive in school. So, said Citra, you pulled us out of our lives for some random art lesson? Isn't that a waste of your valuable time? The Sith laughed, and Rowan found himself wishing he had been the one to make him laugh. What have you learned so far? Sith Faraday asked. Neither had a response, so he asked a different question. What do you think of our conversation? Would it have been like had I brought up you to the post-mortality galleries instead of these older ones? Rowan ventured an answer, probably about how much easier on the eye post-mortal art is, easier and untroubled. How about uninspired? Prompted the Sith. That's a matter of opinion, said Citra. Perhaps, but now that you know what you're looking for in the art of the dying, I want you to try to feel it. And he led them to the next gallery. Although Rowan was sure he'd feel nothing, he was wrong. The next room was a large gallery with paintings hanging floor to ceiling. He didn't recognize the artist, but that didn't matter. There was a coherence to the work, as if it had been painted by the same soul, if not the same hand. Some works had a religious theme, others were portraits, and others simply captured the elusive light of daily life with a vibrancy that was missing in post-mortal art. Longing and elation, anguish and joy, they were all there, sometimes comingling. Wait, comling? What? Oh my gosh. Comingling in the same canvas, I think? Comingling? I gotta look up this word. Where's the word? Where's the word?
Commingling.
Commingling. Commingling is the act of mixing together or blending separate assets, funds, or properties so they can no longer be easily separated. Depending on the context, this blending can be highly illegal, such as mixing client and personal funds, or a normal legal practice like pooling multiple investments into a single fund, or like they were explaining in the book, a matter of commingling emotions into the same canvas, bringing joy, fear, sadness all into one, I guess. Maybe not into one, but kind of. Sometimes in the same canvas. It was in some ways unsettling, but compelling as well.
Hello. Make sure to subscribe. I play video games. I'm just reading today. Here we are. Can we stay in this room a little longer? Rowan asked, which made the Sith smile. Of course we can. The museum had opened by the time they were done. Other patrons gave them a wide berth. It reminded Rowan of the way they treated him in school. Citra still seemed to have no clue why Sith Faraday had called them, but Rowan was beginning to have an idea. He took the kids to a diner, where the waitress sat them immediately and brought them menus, ignoring other customers to give them priority. Perk of the position, Rowan noticed, that no one came in once they were seated. The restaurant would probably be empty by the time they left. If you want us to provide you with information on people we know, Citra said as her food came, I'm not interested. I gather my own information, Sith Faraday told her. I don't need a couple of kids to be my informants. But you do need us, don't you? Rowan said. He didn't answer. Instead, he talked about world population and the task of the world Sith, if not to level it, then to wrangle it to a reasonable ratio. The ratio of population growth to the Thunderhead's ability to provide for humanity requires that a certain number of people be gleaned each year. He told them, for that to happen, we're going to need more Sith. Then he produced from one of the many pockets hidden in his robe a Sith ring identical to the one he already wore. It caught the light in the room, refracting it, but never bending light into the heart of its dark core. 3 times a year, Sith met at a great assembly called a conclave. We discussed the business of gleaning and whether or not more Siths are needed in our region. Citra now seemed to think in her chair. She finally got it, although Rowan had suspected this. To actually see the ring made him shrink a bit too. Uh-oh. People are leaving. The gems on Sith rings were made in those first post-mortal days by the early Siths, Faraday said. When society deemed that unnatural death needed to take the place of natural death, there were many more gems made than were needed at the time, for the founders of the Sithdom were wise enough to anticipate a need. When a new Sith is required, a gem is placed into a gold setting, and it is bestowed upon the chosen candidate. He turned the ring in his fingers, pondering it, sending refracted light dancing around the room. Then he looked them in the eye. First Citra, then Rowan. I just returned from Winter Conclave and have been given this ring so that I might take on an apprentice. Whoa. Citra's backed away. Rowan can do it. I'm not interested. Rowan turned to her, wishing he had spoken. What makes you think I am? I have chosen both of you, Faraday said, raising his voice. I have chosen both of you, Faraday said, raising his voice. You will both learn the trade, but in the end, only one of you will receive the ring. The other may return home to his or her old life. Why would we compete for something that neither of us wants? Citra asked. Therein lies the paradox of the profession, Faraday said. Those who wish to have the job should not have it.
and those who would most refuse to kill are the only ones who should. He put the ring away, and Rowan let out his breath, not even realizing he had been holding it. You are both made of the highest moral fiber, Faraday told them, and I believe the high ground on which you stand will compel you into my apprenticeship, not because I force it upon you, but because you choose it. Then he left without paying the bill, because no bill was or would ever be brought to a Sith. The nerve to think he could impress them with airs of culture and then reel them into his sick little scheme. There was no way Citra would ever, under any circumstances, throw away her life by becoming a taker of other people's lives. She told her parents what had happened when they got home, and that evening her father embraced her, and she cried into his arms for being given the terrible proposition. Then her mother said something that Citra was not expecting. "Will you do it?" she asked. The fact that she could even ask that question was more of a shock than seeing the ring held out to her that morning. "What?" "It's a difficult choice, I know," her father said. "We'll support you either way." She looked at them as if she had never truly seen them before that moment. How could her parents know her so little that they would think she'd become a Sith's apprentice? She didn't even know what to say to them. Would you want me to?" She found herself terrified of their answer. "We want what you want, honey," her mother said. "But look at it in perspective. A Sith wants for nothing in this world. All of your needs and desires would be met, and you'd never have to fear being gleaned." And then something occurred to Citra. You'd never have to worry about being gleaned either. A Sith's family is immune from gleaning it for as long as that Sith's alive. Her father shook his head. "It's not about our immunity," and she realized he was telling the truth. "It's not about yours, it's about Ben's," Citra said. To that they didn't have an answer. The memory of Sith Faraday's unexpected intrusion into their home was still a dark specter, haunting them. At the time, they didn't know why he was there. He could very well have been there to glean Citra or Ben, but if Citra became a Sith, they never needed to fear an unexpected visitor again. "You want me to spend my life killing people?" Her mother looked away. "Please, Citra, it's not killing. It's gleaning. It's important. It's necessary. Sure, nobody likes it, but everyone agrees it has to happen, and that someone has to do it. Why not you?" Citra went to bed early that night before supper, because her appetite was a casualty of the day. Her parents came to her door several times, but she told them to go away. She had never been sure what path her life would take. She assumed she would go to college, get a degree in something pleasant, then settle into a comfortable job, meet a comfortable guy, and have a nice, unremarkable life. It's not that she longed for such an existence, but it was expected not just of her, but of everyone. With nothing to really aspire to, life had become about maintenance, eternal maintenance. Could she possibly find greater purpose in the gleaning of human life? The answer was still a resolute no. But if that were the case, then why did she find it so hard to sleep? For Rowan, the decision wasn't quite so difficult. Yes, he hated the thought of being a Sith. It sickened him. But what sickened him more was the thought of just about anyone else he knew doing it. He didn't see himself as morally superior to anyone, but he did have a keener sense of empathy. He felt for people, sometimes more than he felt for himself.
It's what drove him into Cole's gleaning. It's what brought him to Tiger's side each and every time he splat. And Rowan already knew what it was like to be a Sith, to be treated separate and apart from the rest of the world. He was living that now, but could he bear to live it forever? Maybe he wouldn't have to. Siths got together, didn't they? They had conclaves 3 times a year and must befriend one another. It was the world's most elite club. No, he didn't want to be a part of it, but he had been called to it. It would be a burden, but also the ultimate honor. He didn't tell his family that day because he didn't want them to sway his decision. Immunity for all of them? Of course they'd want him to accept. He was loved, but only one as one among a group of other beloved things. If his sacrifice could save the rest, the greater familial good would be served. In the end, it was the art that did it. The canvases haunted his dreams that night. What must life have been like in the age of mortality, full of passions, both good and bad, fear, giving rise to faith, despair, giving meaning to elation. They say even the winters were colder and the summers were warmer in those days. To live between the prospects of an unknown eternal sky and a dark, enveloping earth must have been glorious, for how else could it have given rise to such magnificent expression? No one created anything of value anymore, but if by gleaning he could bring back a hint of what once was, it might be worth it. Could he find it in himself to kill another human being? Not just one, but many, day after day, year after year, until he reached his own eternity? Sith Faraday believed he could. The following morning, before he left for school, he told his mother that a Sith had invited him to become his apprentice, and that he'd be dropping out of school to accept the position. "If you think that's best," she said. Yo, that's crazy. I had my cultural audit today. It happens only once a year, but it's never any less stressful. This year, when they crunched each cultural index from those I gleaned over the past 12 months, I thankfully came up well within accepted parameters. 20% Caucasoid, 18% Afric, 20% Pan-Asian, 19% Meso-Latino, 23% other. Sometimes it's hard to know a person's index. It's considered private, so we can only go by visible traits, which are no longer as obvious as they have been in past generations. When cis numbers become lopsided, they are disciplined by the high blade and are assigned their gleanings for the next year rather than being allowed to choose for themselves. It is a sign of shame. The index is supposed to keep the world free from cultural and genetic bias, but aren't there underlying factors that we can't escape? For an instance, who decided that the first number of one's genetic index would be Caucasoid? From the Gleaning Journal of H.S. Curry.
I'm reading. I'm on chapter 4 now. Feel like shit. Oh my goodness. My back is fucking killing me. My goodness. This book is amazing. Scythe, guys. Amazing. The next one's Thunderhead, and then there's a third one in the series. Don't know what that one's called. I've read this one before, full book. I've read some of Thunderhead before when I was in high school. Now we're back again. Reading. I enjoy it. Um, where? Is what it is. Let's continue reading. I honestly zoned the fuck out really, really bad right there, too. I'm not gonna lie. Chapter 4. Learner's Permit to Kill. Forget what you think you know about cis. Leave behind your preconceived notions. Your education begins today. Citra could not believe she was actually going through with this. What secret, self-destructive part of herself had asserted its will over her? What had possessed her to accept the apprenticeship? Now there was no backing out. Yesterday, on the third day of the new year, Sith Faraday had come to her apartment and had given a year's immunity to her father and brother. He added several months to her mother's, so their immunity would all expire at the same time. Of course, if Citra was chosen to be a full Sith, their immunity would become permanent. Her parents were tearful when she left. Citra wondered whether they were tears of sorrow, joy, or relief. Perhaps a combination of all three. We know you'll do great things in this world, her father had said, and she wondered what about bringing death could be considered great. Do not be so arrogant as to think you have a license to glean. The license is mine and mine alone. At most you have, shall we say, a learner's permit? I will, however, require at least one of you to be present at each of my gleanings, and if I ask you to assist, you will. Citra unceremoniously withdrew from school and said goodbye to friends in awkward little conversations. It's not like I won't be around. I just won't be at school anymore.
But who was she kidding? Accepting this apprenticeship put her on the outside of an impenetrable wall. Impenetrable wall. It was both demoralizing yet heartening to know that life would go on without her, and it occurred to her that being a Sith was like being the living dead in the world but apart from it, just a witness to the comings and goings of others. We are above the law, but that does not mean we live in defiance of it. Our position demands a level of morality beyond the rule of law. We must strive for incorruptibility, and must assess our motives on a daily basis. While she did not wear a ring, Citra was given an armband to identify her as a Sith apprentice. Rowan had one too, bright green bands bearing the curved blade of a farmer's scythe. The scythe apprentice. Oh my gosh, farmer's scythe. Above an unblinking eye, the double symbol of the scythe hood. That symbol. Wait. Scythe hood. That symbol would become a tattoo on the arm of the chosen apprentice. Not that anyone would ever see the tattoo, for Siths are never seen in public without their robes. Citra had to tell herself that there was an out. She could fail to perform. She could be a lousy apprentice. She could sabotage herself so completely that Honorable Sith Faraday would be forced to choose Rowan and return her to her family at the end of the year. The problem was that Citra was very bad at doing things half-fast. It would be much harder for her to fail than to succeed. I will not tolerate any romantic notions between the two of you, so banish the thought from your mind now. Crazy. Citra had looked over at Rowan when the Sith said that, and Rowan had shrugged. Not a problem, he said, which irritated Citra. At the very least, he could have voiced some minor disappointment. Yeah, Citra said. No hope of that. Wish or without the rule. Oh, that with or without the rule. Rowan had just grinned at that, which had made her even more annoyed. You shall study history, the great philosophers, the sciences. You will come to understand the nature of life and what it means to be human before you are permanently charged with the taking of life. You will also study all forms of killcraft and become experts. Like Citra, Rowan found himself unsettled by his decision to take this on, but he was not going to show it, especially not to Citra, and in spite of the blasé attitude she showed her, he was in fact attracted to her, but he knew even before the Sith forbade them that such a pursuit could not end well. They were adversaries after all. Like Citra, Rowan had stood beside Sith Verde as the man held out his ring to each member of his family, offering them immunity. His brothers, his sisters, half-siblings, grandma, and her all too perfect husband, who Rowan suspected might actually be a bot. Each in turn knelt respectfully in kissing the ring, transmitting their DNA to the worldwide immunity database in the Sithdom's own special cloud, separate and apart from the Thunderhead. The rule was that all members of an apprentice's household would receive immunity for 1 year, and there were 19 people in Rowan's sprawling household. His mother had mixed feelings because now no one would move out for at least a year. To make sure their immunity would become permanent once Rowan received his Sith ring, if he got the ring, the only glitch had been when the ring vibrated, giving off a little alarm, refusing immunity to his grandmother's new husband because he was a bot after all. You shall live as I do, modestly, modestly, and subsist, subs, subsisting, modestly and subsisting on the goodwill of others. Subsisting.
Subsisting.
Subsisting is the present particle of the verb subsist, meaning to maintain life, survive, or continue in existence. Okay. Got the ring. The only glitch had been modestly and subsisting on the goodwill of others. You will take no more than you need and waste nothing. People will attempt to buy your friendship. They will lavish things upon you, accept nothing but the barest of human necessities. Faraday had brought Rowan and Citra to his home to begin their new lives. It was a small bungalow in a run-down part of the city that Rowan hadn't even known existed. People playing at poverty, he had told them, because no one was impoverished anymore. Austerity, austerity, austerity. Oh my gosh, another word. Where's that?
Austerity.
Austerity. Austerity refers to a strict economic policy implemented by governments to reduce budget deficits and control public debt. Oh. Okay. Wait. Anymore. Austerity was a choice, for there were always those who shunned the plenty of the post-mortal world. Faraday's home was Spartan. Little decoration, unimpressive furniture. Rowan's room had space for only a bed and a small dresser. Citra at least had a window, but the view was of a brick wall. I will not tolerate childish pastimes or vapid communications with friends. Commitment to this life means leaving behind your old life as fully as possible. When a year from now I choose between you, the unchosen one can return to his or her former life easily enough. But for now, consider that life a part of your past. Once they were settled in, he didn't allow them to brood over their circumstances. As soon as Rowan had unpacked his bags, the Sith wait. The Scythe announced that they were going to the market to glean. Rowan asked more than a little sick. Rowan asked more than a little sick at the prospect. No, to get food for the two of you, Faraday told them, unless you'd prefer to eat my leftovers. Citra smirked at Rowan for asking, as if she hadn't been worrying about that herself. I liked you a lot more before I knew you, he told her. You still don't know me, she answered, which was true. Then she sighed, and for the first time since their night at the opera, she offered up something more than attitude. We're being forced to live together and forced to compete at something neither of us want to compete over. I know it's not your fault, but it doesn't exactly put us in a friendly place. I know, Rowan admitted. After all, Citra didn't own
all the tension between them. But that still doesn't mean we can't have each other's backs. She didn't answer him. He didn't expect her to. It was just a seed he wanted to plant. Over the past 2 months, he had learned that no one had his back anymore. Perhaps no one ever did. His friends had pulled away. He was a footnote in his own family. There was only one person now who shared his plight. That was Citra. If they couldn't find a way to trust each other, then what did they have beyond a learner's permit to kill?
Good chapter. I'm enjoying the book. I need to learn these words more. Because, dude, I'm a dumb ass, bro. I'm not going to remember any of these words. Especially to use them. I'm an idiot.
The greatest achievement of the human race was not conquering death. It was ending government. Back in the day, when the world's digital network was called the cloud, people thought giving too much power to an artificial intelligence would be a very bad idea. Cautionary tales abounded in every form of media. The machines were always the enemy. But then the cloud evolved into the thunderhead, sparking the consciousness, or at least a remarkable remarkable. Oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. Wait. Where's this word?
Facsimile.
Facsimile. An exact copy or reproduction of a document, book, manuscript, or artwork. Facsimile. Or at least a remarkable facsimile. In stark contrast to people's fears, the Thunderhead did not seize power. Instead, it was people who came to realize that it was far better suited to run things than politicians. In those days before the Thunderhead, human arrogance, self-interest, and endless infighting determined the rule of law. Inefficient, imperfect, vulnerable to all forms of corruption, but the Thunderhead was incorruptible. Not only that, but its algorithms were built on the full sum of human knowledge. All the time and money wasted on political posturing, the lives lost in wars, and the populations abused by despots, all gone the moment the Thunderhead was handed power. Of course, the politicians, dictators, and warmongers weren't happy, but their voices, which had always seemed so loud and intimidating, were suddenly insignificant. The Emperor not only had no clothes, turns out he had no testicles either. The Thunderhead quite literally knew everything: when and where to build roads, how to eliminate waste in food distribution and thus end hunger, how to protect the environment from the ever-growing human population. It created jobs It clothed the poor, and it established the world code. Now for the first time in history, law was no longer the shadow of justice, it was justice. The Thunderhead gave us a perfect world, the utopia that a perfect world, the utopia that our ancestors could the, only dream of is our reality. There was only one thing the Thunderhead was not given authority over, the SCYTHE. When it was decided that people needed to die in order to ease the tide of population growth, it was also decided that this must be the responsibility of humans. Bridge repair and urban planning could be handled by the Thunderhead, but taking a life was an act of conscience, and consciousness. Since it could not be proven that the Thunderhead had either, the SCYTHE was born. I do not regret the decision, but I often wonder if the Thunderhead would have done a better job. From the Gleaning Journal of H.S. Curry. Chapter 5, but I'm only 96. Could read that? Got like 10 more pages left, and then I'm on the next part. I'm so hungry. But while a trip to the market should be an ordinary, everyday occurrence, actually give me 5 seconds. I do want to take a break. I will be right back.
Hello, I have returned to the universe to finish reading my book. Well, okay. Chapter 5. But I'm only 96. While a trip to the market should be an ordinary, everyday occurrence, Citra found that food shopping with a SCYTHE carried its own basket of crazy. The moment the market doors parted for them, and the three of them stepped in, the dread around them was enough to raise goose flesh on Citra's arms. Goosebumps. Okay. Raise goose flesh on Citra's arms. Nothing too blatant as gas of screams. People were used to sis passing through their daily lives. It was silent but pervasive, as if they just accidentally strolled onto some theatrical stage, and fouled the performance. Citra noticed that, in general, there were three types of people. One, the deniers. There were the people who forged on and pretended the scythe wasn't there. It wasn't just a matter of ignoring him, it was actively, willfully denying his presence. It reminded Citra of the way very small children would play hide and seek, covering their own eyes to hide, thinking that if they couldn't see you, then you couldn't see them. The escape artist. These were people who ran away but tried to make it look as if they weren't. They suddenly remembered they forgot to get eggs, or began chasing after a running child that didn't actually exist. One shopper abandoned a cart, mumbling about a wallet he must have left at home. Despite an obvious bulge in his back pocket, he hurried out, and didn't come back. The Scythe's pets. These were the people who went out of their way to engage the scythe and offer him something with the secret, not so secret, hope that he might grant them immunity, or at least glean the person to their right instead of them someday. Here, Your Honor, take my melon. It's bigger. I insist. Did these people know that such sycophantic behavior would make a scythe want to glean them even more? Not that Citra would want to level a death penalty for such a thing, but if she were given a choice between some innocent bystander and someone who was being nauseatingly obsequious about their produce, she choose the melon giver. There was one shopper who didn't seem to fit the other three profiles, a woman who actually seemed pleased to see him. Good morning, Scythe Faraday. Good morning, Scythe Faraday. She said as they passed her near the deli counter, then looked at Citra and Rowan, curious. Your niece and nephew? Hardly, he said, with a bit of disdain in his voice for relatives Citra had no interest in knowing about. I've taken apprentices. Her eyes widened a bit. Such a thing? She said in a way that made it unclear whether she thought it a good or bad idea. Do they have a penchant for the work? Not the slightest, she nodded. Well then, I guess it's all right. You know what they say. have not a hand in the blade with abandon. The scythe smiled. I hope I can introduce them to your strudel sometime. Guys, I gotta take a break again real quick. Oh my gosh, look at my fucking hair, dude. All right. She nodded at the two of them. Well, that goes without saying. After she had moved on, Scythe Faraday explained that she was a long-time friend. She cooks for me from time to time, and she works in the coroner's office in my line of work. It's always good to have a friend there. Do you grant her immunity? Citra asked. Rowan thought the Scythe might be indignant at the question, but instead he answered, "The Sithim frowns upon those who play favorites, but I found I can grant her immunity on alternate years without raising a red flag. What if another Scythe gleans her during the off years? Then I shall attend her funeral with heartfelt grief." He told them. As they shopped, Citra chose some snacks that the Scythe eyed dubiously. "Are these really necessary?" he asked. "Is anything really necessary?" Citra responded. Rowan found it amusing how Citra gave the Scythe attitude, but it worked. He let her keep the chips. Rowan tried to be more practical, picking out staples like eggs, flour, and various proteins, and side dishes to go with them. "Don't get chickenoid tenders," Citra said, looking at his choices. "Trust me, my mother's a food synthesis engineer. That stuff's not actual chicken. They grow it in a petri dish." Rowan held up another bag of frozen protein. "How about this? Sea steak?" "Sure, if you like plankton pressed into meat shapes." "Well then, maybe you should pick your own meals instead of grabbing sweets and snacks." "Are you always this boring?" she asked. "Didn't he say we have to live as he lives?" "I don't think cookie dough ice cream is a part of his lifestyle." She sneered at him, but switched out the flavor for vanilla. As they continued to shop, it was Citra who first noticed two suspicious-looking teens who seemed to be tracking them through the store, lingering behind them, trying to look like they were just shopping. They were probably unsavories, people who found enjoyment in activities that bordered on the fringe of the law. Sometimes unsavories actually broke the law in minor ways, although most lost interest eventually, because they were always caught by the Thunderhead and reprimanded by peace officers. The more troublesome offenders were tweaked with shock nanites in their blood, just powerful enough to deter any scoffing of the law. And if that didn't work, you got your own personal peace officer 24/7. Citra had an uncle like that. He called his officer his guardian angel, and eventually married her. She tugged on Rowan's sleeve, bringing the unsavories to his attention, but not to Scythe Faraday's. "What do you think they're Why do you think? Oh, my neck. Why do you think they're following us?" "They probably think there's going to be a gleaning, and they want to watch," suggested Rowan, which seemed a likely theory. As it turned out, however, they had other motives. As the three of them waited in the checkout line, one of the unsavories grabbed Sith Faraday's hand and kissed his ring before he could stop him. The ring began to glow red, indicating his immunity. "Ha!" said the unsavory, puffing up at his strategic triumph. "I've got immunity for a year, and you can't undo it. I know the rules." Scythe Faraday was unfazed. "Yes, good for you," he said. "You have 365 days of immunity." And then, looking him in the eye, said, "And I'll be seeing you on day 366. Suddenly, the teen's smug expression dropped, as if all the muscles that held up his face failed. He stuttered a bit, and his friend pulled him away. They ran out of the store as fast as they could. "Well played," said another man in line. He offered to pay for the Scythe's groceries, which was pointless because Scythes got their groceries for free anyway. "Will you really track him down for a year from now?" Rowan asked. The Scythe grabbed a roll of breath mints from the rack. "Not worth my time. Besides, I've already meted out his punishment. He'll be worried about being gleaned all year. A lesson for both of you. A Scythe doesn't have to follow through on a threat for it to be effective." Then, a few minutes later, as they were loading the grocery bags into a public car, the Scythe looked across the parking lot. "There," he said. "You see that woman? The one who just dropped her purse?" "Yeah," said Rowan. Scythe Faraday pulled out his phone and aimed the camera at the woman, and in an instant, information about her began to scroll on screen. Naturally 96 years of age, physically 34, mother of 9, data management technician. For a small shipping company. She's off to work after she puts away her groceries. The Scythe told them, "This afternoon, we'll go to her place of business and glean her." Citra drew in an audible breath. Not quite a gasp, but close. Rowan focused on his own breathing, so he didn't telegraph his emotions the way Citra had. "Why?" he asked. "Why her?" The Scythe gave him a cool look. "Why not her? You had a reason for gleaning Cole Whitlock." "Who?" Citra asked. "A kid I knew at school when I first met our honorable Sith here." Faraday sighed. Fatalities in parking lots made up 1.25% of all accidental deaths during the last days of the Age of Mortality. "Last night I decided I would choose today's subject from a parking lot. So all this time while we were shopping, you knew it would end up with this," Rowan said. "I feel bad for you," said Citra. "Even when you're food shopping, death is hiding right behind the milk." "It never hides," the Scythe told them with a world weariness that was hard to describe. "Nor does it sleep. You'll learn that soon enough." But it wasn't something either of them was eager to learn. The afternoon, just as the Scythe had said, they went to the shipping company where the woman worked, and they watched just as Rowan had watched Cole's gleaning. But today, it was a little more than mere observation. "I have chosen for you a life-terminating pill," Scythe Faraday told the speechless, tremulous woman. He reached into his robe and
produced a small pill in a little glass vial. It will not activate until you bite it, so you can choose the moment. You need not swallow it, just bite it. Death will be instantaneous and painless. Her head shook like a bobblehead doll. May I call my children? Scythe Faraday sadly shook his head and no, I'm sorry, but we shall pass on any message you have to them. What would it hurt to allow her to say goodbye? Citra asked. He put up his hand to silence her. He handed the woman a pen and piece of paper. Say all you need to say in a letter. I promise we shall deliver it. They waited outside of her office. Scythe Faraday seemed to have infinite patience. What if she opens a window and decides to splat? Rowan asked. Then her life will end on schedule. It would be a more unpleasant choice, but the ultimate result is the same. The woman didn't choose to splat. Instead, she let them back into the room, politely handed the envelope to Scythe Faraday, and sat down at her desk. I'm ready. Then Scythe Faraday did something they didn't expect. He turned to Rowan and handed him the vial. Please place the vial in Miss Becker's mouth. Who, me? Scythe Faraday didn't answer. He simply held the vial out. Waiting for Rowan to take it. Rowan knew he wasn't officially performing the gleaning, but to be intermediary, that thought was debilitating. He swallowed, tasting bitterness as if the pill were in his own mouth. He refused to take it. Scythe Faraday gave him a moment more, then turned to Citra. You then. Citra just shook her head. Scythe Faraday smiled. Very good, he told them. I was testing you. I would not have been pleased if either of you were eager to administer death. At the word death, the woman took a shuddering breath. Scythe Faraday opened the vial and carefully removed the pill. It was triangular with a dark green coating. Who knew death could arrive so small? But I'm only 96, the woman said. We know, the scythe told her. Now please, open your mouth. Remember, it's not to swallow, you must bite it. She opened her mouth as she was told. Scythe Faraday placed the pill on her tongue. She closed her mouth, but didn't bite it right away. She looked at each of them in turn, Rowan, then Citra, then finally settled her gaze on Scythe Faraday. Then the slightest crunch, and she went limp. Simple as that, but not so simple at all. Citra's eyes were moist. She pressed her lips together. As much as Rowan tried to control his emotions, his breath came out uneasily, and he felt lightheaded. And then Scythe Faraday turned to Citra. Check for a pulse, please. Who, me? The scythe was patient. He didn't ask again. The man never asked a thing twice. When she continued to hesitate, he finally said, This time, it's not a test. I actually want you to confirm for me that she has no pulse. Citra reached up a hand to the woman's neck. Other side, the scythe told her. She pressed her fingers to the woman's choroided artery just beneath her ear. No pulse. Satisfied, Scythe Faraday stood. So that's it? Citra asked. What were you expecting? Said Rowan. A chorus of angels? Citra threw him a half-hearted glare. But I mean, it's so uneventful. Rowan knew what she meant. Rowan had experienced the electrical jolt that had taken his classmate's life. It was awful, but somehow this was worse. What now? Do we just leave her like this? But best not to linger. Scythe Faraday said, tapping something out on his phone. I've notified the coroner to come collect Miss Becker's body. Then he took the letter
she had written and slipped it into one of the many pockets of his robe. You two shall present the letter to her family at the funeral. Wait, said Citra. We're going to her funeral? I thought you said it was best not to linger, said Rowan. Lingering and paying respects are two different things. I attend the funerals of all the people I glean. Is that a Sith rule? Rowan asked, having never been to a funeral. Oh my goodness. No, it's my rule, he told them. It's called common decency. Then they left, Rowan and Citra both avoiding eye contact with the dead woman's co-workers. This both of them realized was their first initiation rite. This was the moment their apprenticeship had truly begun. Crazy. This is part 2. That is where I end this stream. I hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications for more videos and live streams just like this one. I do a bunch of different things, a lot of different things. So enjoy. Love you all. And I'll see you guys in the next one.